Welcome back, a new edition or episode of the Boundary Breakers Collective. And I am here with Melissa Deely. She is an integrative mind body health practitioner and trainer of NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, and NLP results coaching. Melissa is dedicated to guiding individuals towards their best lives and to training other coaches, practitioners, counselors in these powerful modalities so they too can empower others in stepping into their magnificence. Melissa also hosts the Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast, offering concise, practical advice for health and mindset, embodying her commitment to holistic well being. And she is also the co founder of Girls Matter, keeping girls in school in Uganda and Kenya and helping stop teenage marriages. Melissa, thank you so much for being here. I am thrilled to have you, and I can't wait to learn from you and to hear all your remarkable stories. Welcome.
No, thank you so much for having me, Helena. I'm very excited to be here myself.
Yeah, we have like kind of similar missions, especially in terms of women empowerment and girls empowerment. I would love to have that as a topic of our conversation today as well. But let me start with a question I ask everybody. Why do you concern yourself a boundary breaker?
Because for
Sorry,
all of
sorry, let me ask that again. Why do you consider yourself a boundary breaker?
because all of my life, I have asked the question, why? When somebody tells me something, I ask why. Because when I understand it, then I can follow through with it. When I work with my clients, I always explain the why to them when I'm writing their wellness protocol or giving them tasking to do so that they understand why. Because when we understand the why, then we can follow through. If we just get told something and we don't know why, then I'm not necessarily going to do it.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I like
so
that.
there's many cases in my life where the why has helped me in my healing journey by asking why, not just accepting what I'm being told. It's a
Mm.
very powerful question.
It is. And it's also a very powerful philosophy because I feel that we do that way too little. There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things that we like take for granted, or we just do because we always have been doing it, or we do it because our parents have been doing it like that, or society says it's like that. So there's a lot of things that we just let happen and we don't make decisions and we don't make conscious choices or decisions on the topics. It's just like something that we go with the flow, which sometimes is not really a disaster, but very often it is really sub optimizing our lives, right? Mm.
Exactly. And as you say, a lot of our actions in any given day are triggered by our programming. The
Mhm.
programming that we developed in that 0 to 6 age group when we were learning so much about how to live within our family unit, how to function in our school unit, in our community, and follow the rules, etc., to be part of society. And our daily lives are run 95% by that programming.
Mm.
And when we just stop for a moment and ask why, it can shift everything. And I don't know where I learned to ask why. Everybody's heard 2 year olds. I have children, and the 2 year olds going, but why? But why? But why? And after a while, it can get a little bit annoying to the parents. However, I'm supposing that my parents allowed me to keep asking why and they didn't squash
Yeah.
it and they answered my questions. And so I continued learning. And so my programming was that if I keep asking why, I keep learning. And as I
Yeah.
keep learning, I come to solutions.
Mm.
And when a solution works, then I keep doing it. And so for me, at asking why works. And
Mm.
a classic example of where I've done this is really in the medical system. And years ago, when I was in my early 20s, I had suffered from migraines that were hormonal. So I would get them once a month at the onset of my cycle. And it was one day and it was manageable. All of a sudden, though, I started getting it every day through that cycle. Like, why am I getting it every day? This is something's changed and I want to know
Mhm.
why. And I went to the doctor who said, oh, we'll never figure out why. Here, you just need to take the drug, this drug, it's a stronger drug, and take it every day. And I'm like, I don't want a stronger drug. I want to know why this is happening, because if I know why it's happening, then I can do something about it so that it stops happening. And she said, we'll never figure out why. And that wasn't enough of an answer for me. And I really didn't want to take a drug. And then what if I started getting migraines every day of my life? That wasn't a solution. And so then I started looking for a different doctor, and I found a naturopathic doctor who then talked to me about my hormones and lab testing and the food I was eating and what else was going on in my life, etc. And when she talked about the lab testing, I was like, yes, I want to do that. And so we did the lab testing, the same lab testing I now offer my clients, discovered my progesterone levels were low. We resolved that using some Vitex, which was absolutely disgusting. It was 1 teaspoon a day for the first 2 weeks of my cycle for 2 months. And after the first 2 weeks, I didn't even get a migraine at the beginning of the onset of my next cycle. And after doing it for 2 months, I didn't get a migraine for 7 years because I rebalanced my hormones. And
Yeah.
then our hormones are always changing. So 7 years later, I started getting migraines again. And I went, I wonder if it's my hormones. I'm going to go back and ask for more of that stuff. That was disgusting. However, it worked.
Yeah.
And I did. And she said, maybe we should lab test again. And I said, actually, let me try this first. And if that doesn't work, then yes, we'll lab test. It worked
Mm.
until I hit menopause. And then my hormones changed again. And then the migraines were different. And so then I said to her, let's lab test.
Mm.
And all because of that question at the very beginning of why, I was really able to navigate my migraines and my hormones throughout my life and through menopause, so that going through menopause was very easy and graceful because my hormones stayed in balance because I knew about this already and was able to keep them in balance because I'd asked why.
Yeah.
Imagine if I'd accepted the drug.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then they would have just kept giving me more and more drugs because we
Mm.
weren't getting to the root. We weren't
Yeah.
balancing my hormones with that drug. So the more my hormones got out of balance, the more my migraines would have got worse, and they would have just kept giving me stronger and stronger drugs.
Mm. Yeah.
And then you have
It's
all
a
the side
beautiful
effects of that
story.
too.
Yeah. I believe that also. Basically, this you could have 1,000 stories like that. We're
I have
asking the
more,
why.
absolutely.
Yeah, we're asking the why makes such a big difference. And so much that I wonder why it is that so many people don't ask the why. And of course, it's like you said, in childhood, we are like discouraged to ask the why, and we ask not to be disturbant or not to be difficult or not to be different, things like that. And I also believe that sometimes we don't ask the why because sometimes it's too confrontational, because we understand that we might have to change something, because we understand that we might have to learn or we might have to come out of our comfort zone. And so for a lot of us, it's even if it's painful or hurtful, we like to stay in the comfort zone and have somebody else taking care of us or taking the responsibility for our well-being.
I
And
call
so
that
what you're
comfortable
telling,
suffering.
yeah, absolutely. So, what do you feel does it take as an individual to go to that why and to have agency, to take responsibility for what we are doing and how we are thriving?
First of all, I think it's awareness. Simply knowing
Hmm.
that you can, that you have the right to ask why. I'm asking why about my own body. I'm not asking why about anything that has to do with anybody else. That's their life,
Mm.
their body. This is me, this is my body. And so I have the right to ask these questions, regardless of who I'm talking to. Just
Mm.
because somebody puts on a white coat and has a degree of a doctor, and yes, they've studied for many years, and yes, they want to help society. However, they only know what they've been taught and what they've
Mm.
studied. It doesn't mean that they're God. It doesn't mean that they know everything
Or they cannot make mistakes.
or
They're
that they
people,
can't
right?
make mistakes. They are human beings. The white
Exactly.
coat doesn't change that.
Mm.
And yet, as a society, we've very often been led to believe that you go to the doctor and they will heal you, which, first of all, I don't agree with that either. They
Mm-hmm.
don't heal you. And if you expect them to heal you, that's putting a lot of responsibility on another human being. You
Exactly.
have to take responsibility for you. And part of that responsibility for you is being able to recognize that yes, they are there to help you. However, they don't know everything. And it's okay to ask why if you don't understand what they're saying to you or if it doesn't make sense to you. It's also okay to go and get a second opinion and a third opinion if what you're being told isn't aligning with your intuition, because your
Yeah.
intuition will never lead you astray.
Mm.
And so don't override it because somebody else told you what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, this is absolutely true. We do believe in the almightiness of a medical degree, which is absolutely respectable. That's not what I mean, but it's not like it's the only thing. And we sometimes don't even develop a narrative or a language in order to tell ourselves or have a communication with ourselves. What do we feel? How do we feel? When do we feel that? Because as you told in with your migraine, you are really attentive and aware of what happened when, so you could already build a case and build a context on what is going on. We sometimes don't do that. We don't listen to our body. We keep working or we keep doing what we're doing, and we don't pay attention to what we feel or how we feel. So how can we explain it to somebody else? And they cannot feel for us, right? It is something that is basically like a dead end street. And
Yes.
I don't know over the ocean there, Melissa, but here in Europe, it is changing, but older generations still have like this regard for doctors that they would never go against them. Asking a second opinion could be a little bit insulting. So it's
Mm-hmm.
even this relationship is not really balanced. And
Yes.
so a lot of people just do what they are told. And once again, we saw it during COVID. We were not told what to do in order to build our immunity. We
No.
were told what we could not do, how all the things that was basically created by a government that didn't know what to do either, because it was a completely new situation. But there was so little information and so little conversations about building immunity and taking care of your life and living healthy. And that's something that I believe that there's a lot there to improve. And that's
Yes.
why also I'm very interested to hear you share the other story that you already mentioned when we prepared this conversation, that is even more radical than the migraine blood tests, right?
Yes. And so a couple of things in what you've shared there is that you were talking about symptoms and how we just push through and we ignore them and we don't listen to our body. And I always love to tell people, listen to your body so it doesn't have to yell at you.
Mm,
As society, again, our programming has taught us to blame our symptoms, which is our body's way of talking to us, on aging. We blame it on our genetics. Maybe we blame it on seasonal allergies. And instead of that, again, get curious. Ask, why am I experiencing this symptom? What is my body trying to tell me? Because we have the right to do that. And when we know that we can do that, which comes back to the awareness,
yeah,
just ask why. What is going on right now? Because when we deal with the symptoms, when they're very small symptoms, and we bring our body back into balance, we never have to go down the path of some kind of diagnosis down the line, right? And so
yeah.
I think that's really important for people to understand. And then, yes, after just the last 4 years of what we've gone through, one of the questions I was asking at the very beginning was, where's the government getting their information from? Because if the government's getting it from the media, is that serving us? Right? Who in the government, where are the actual doctors that know what's going on? And instead it just became this mad craze of this media promoted event, and the government was listening to the media. And so again, I was questioning from the very beginning, I'm not sure I can trust this information.
Mhm.
And so that had me go through that whole 4 year period in a very different way and a very different mindset
Mm,
as I continue to ask why.
yeah.
And then, yes, just this year, earlier this year in January, I was diagnosed with metastatic melanoma in my lower right leg.
Mm,
And it had been a mole that I'd had in my leg for about 10 years. And it had actually been diagnosed as that 10 years ago. And it was stage 0. And it was the doctor explained to me that it was like a thick icing on a cake that never melts down into the cake. So he said, we'll just watch it. And so we did. I saw skin cancer specialist every year. I have very fair skin. I was raised partially in Australia. I have a lot of moles from the sun damage back when we didn't have sunscreen. And so I am high risk. So I would do my checkups every year. So we just watched it and it started changing. And so again, I'm going, why? Why is it changing? I go back and I check it and he goes, no, it's fine. And then another year goes by and it's really changing now. So we did a biopsy and it came back as metastatic melanoma, stage 1. So I'm referred to a surgeon and I go down and I meet with her. Now I think I'm going down to have it removed that day and drive home. And I
Mm.
find out when I get there, no, I'm going down so she can tell me the process. And I was like, oh, okay. So she starts to tell me the process of we need to have you go to the hospital and flood yourself with radiation so that we can then determine which lymph nodes we're going to remove. And then that will tell us the chemo and radiation protocol for you. And there's this 9 to 12% chance that it's metastasized. And this is the why we want to take out the lymph nodes. And these are the side effects of it. And I'm listening to all of this. And I understand anybody who's been there because it's filling you with fear. And at the end of all of it, I came back to, so tell me again why I need to have these lymph nodes removed, because all of those side effects that you just told me, I don't like any of them. I like my legs the way they are. I'm very active. I hike in the summer, I paddleboard, I ski in the winter. I love to go to the gym and do workouts. I like my legs fully functioning. And she said, it's to determine your chemo and radiation protocol. And so I said, okay, so I'm not going to do chemo and radiation because I'm a holistic healer and I have many other ways that I will address this cancer, and that is not going to be my path. So if I'm not doing that, then you don't need to take any lymph nodes out. And she said, that's not what I suggest. I think you need to do this. This is the protocol. And I said, no, I would like them all removed. And then we can biopsy and make sure that you've got it all. And I will take this seriously and I will do what I need to do. I'm not signing off for you to take out any lymph nodes. And I got really clear on why she wanted them out. And I knew that I didn't need them out. I wasn't going to do that protocol anyway, so I'm not letting her take out any lymph nodes. So I signed off for the surgery to remove the mole, and I did not sign off on anything else. And yet they still booked me into the hospital to go do the flood myself with radiation so they could see which ones were lit up. And I got that phone call from the hospital telling me when my booking was, and I said, no, you can cancel that because I'm not coming. And they said, are you sure? I said, yes, I'm absolutely sure. I won't be there. You're busy. You have other people that want your services. I'm canceling the appointment. I don't need to be there. I then spoke with the plastic surgeon because it was on my leg and we don't have a lot of extra fat on our leg, right? So they were figuring out, are they skin grafting? How are they going to close up this wound? Because they have to take this 3 centimeter diameter around this mole, which was about the size of my thumbnail. And so I spoke with the plastic surgeon and I said to her, because I'm just having the mole removed, I only need your services. I don't actually need the oncological surgeon's services. She's a busy lady. Other people need her services. And I don't need to go under general anesthesia because we're not taking any lymph nodes. We're just taking the mole out of my leg. Can we do it as local? And she said, it's a bit too big to do it as a local, especially if I have to take skin grafting from other areas. So I said, what are my options? And so she suggested a nerve block. I said, okay, I can do a nerve block because I want to be awake for this. I don't want to be under.
Mm.
And she agreed with my protocol. I explained to her all of the other things that I was going to do and why I didn't need the oncological surgeon and why I didn't need chemo and radiation, because I was going to use high dose vitamin C IVs to help reduce any cancer cells. I work with an energy healer to help draw the cancer cells out of my body. I worked with a new German medicine healer because I understand that any dis-ease is triggered by a significant emotional event. And I wanted to understand, okay, why did that mole form 10 years ago? And then it lay dormant? And why did it start acting up about 18 months prior? And working together, we figured that out. So 10 years ago, I was in a really toxic workplace. And soon after, I was let go. So that really toxic work environment had created that toxicity in my body because of the frustration and the emotions that I was dealing with at that time. And that
Mm.
triggered that melanoma to show up initially. And then I was let go. And then I got out of that toxic work environment, started building my own business and loving what I was doing. And so it just lay dormant for all of those years until COVID came along. And I had very different views about how I was going to go through that versus my family and many friends.
Mm.
And I sent some information that I thought would be helpful to my family. And my brother wrote me back a scathing email that was so hurtful. And I felt it when I read it, I felt it like a gasp in my body. And that was a significant emotional event that started changing that melanoma 18 months prior. And that's why it developed. So then I used timeline therapy, which is one of my own techniques, to release the emotion that was in my body around those two events and clear
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
And I also cleared doubt in my own ability to heal myself. Because the doctor, in the short time I'd been with her, had still put a fair bit of fear into me.
Mm.
Driving home from that appointment, I'd had a 2-hour drive home where the fear comes in. Are you sure you know enough to do this on your own? The doctor told you all of this. So all that programming is still there, even with all the knowledge and tools that I have. However, I was
Yeah.
able to stop it quickly and go, no, I'm not going to a place of fear and stress because that weakens my immune system and I need my immune system right now. So how do I stay out of fear and stress? First of all, I ask, how is this happening for me? And the answer just came to me right away. So that I have a powerful healing story that I can share with others, so that others know they too can advocate for themselves and heal. And there is
Mm.
never just one way to heal. There's
Yeah.
many ways that we can heal. The body is designed to heal. And from there I went, okay, so what's the next thing I need to do to stay out of fear? I can stay in action of positive action of helping myself. And that was stopping at my naturopath's office that's on the way home and booking the first vitamin C IV. And then when I got home, I called my energy healer and booked a session with him. And I called the new German medicine healer and I booked a session with her. And I was talking to a couple of other MDs, naturopaths, around my plan and were there any gaps or was this a good plan? So all of this kept me moving forward.
Mm.
And then it came surgery day. And I didn't even want to have anesthesia because as a hypnotherapist, I know the power of being in our theta healing state. And I had recently discovered theta healing frequencies that were very powerful and could drop me into that theta state really quickly. And so I used those. I had asked previously the plastic surgeon for permission. And when we were in the hospital, that was all fine. I had the nerve block and I used my healing frequencies for getting the nerve block. They said most people have an anesthesia to have the nerve block. And I said, no, I'm going to use the healing frequencies. And that doctor allowed that. And then the anesthetist from the operating room came out to talk to me. And he said, I'm here to talk to you about what you want for anesthesia for during the surgery. And I said, I don't want anything. I want this to be the least invasive as possible. I have my theta healing frequencies. I'm just going to use that. And the doctor who had done the nerve block was there. And she said to him, she just did her nerve block with that. She's fine. And he said, okay, I'll just be right by your head at the end of the bed in the OR. If you need anything, you just let me know. I said, great. So I got into the surgery room. They got me all super comfy. I was joking with them. They asked me, how are you doing? I said, I'm great. My leg's asleep. I'm awake. That's what I want. And then I was so comfortable. I said, you guys might be careful. I might never leave. I'm so cozy and warm here now. And I tuned into my healing frequencies and I could feel the first stitch come through. It was just sensation. I didn't feel any of the cutting. I just felt the stitch and it was just sensation. It wasn't pain. And then I didn't feel anything else at all in this 50-minute surgery. And at the
Mm.
end, I thanked the anesthetist. And he said, why are you thanking me? I didn't do anything for you. I said, yes, you did. You allowed me to do this my way. I'm
Absolutely.
so grateful
Non-judgmental.
for that. And then when I went out to the room after the surgery where they check you out of the hospital, She said to me, the nurse there, I hadn't met her yet. I worked with 9 different people on this day. And she was looking in the computer and she goes, "Did you not have any anesthesia for your surgery today?" And I said, "No, I just used my healing frequencies." And I really didn't think it was a big deal at this point because I'd had a nerve block to help with the pain, right? So I didn't think it was that big a deal until she said, "I've never seen that before."
Mm.
And I said, "I had a nerve block." And she goes, "Most people need the anesthesia just to get the nerve block." And I said, "No, I was fine." And she said, "This is the easiest checkout ever. I don't need to have you sign any documentation, and I don't need to give you any instructions. So you can get dressed and leave."
Mm.
And I did. And I was really grateful for that experience that the hospital had allowed me to do things my way because I asked, because I knew that I could advocate for myself. I was very nice about it. I wasn't demanding, and I was explaining why I wanted to do it my way. And they all allowed it. Only the
Mm.
operating nurse was room nurse was not happy about it. She didn't like me having my phone, which is where I had my earbuds and my phone. She tried to take it away twice and had 2 different doctors say no, it's her anesthesia protocol. She's allowed it. And for her, it was just she's clearly someone who had a structure, and what I was doing was different, and she hadn't been notified in advance, and so she was just struggling with adapting. However, next time it happens, hopefully she'll be more open to it. The best
Yeah.
part, though, was my recovery was very quick. And the plastic surgeon was very happy with how quickly I was healing because I didn't have any of the toxicity in me.
Mhm.
My body was able to just heal with the healing environment I had created. And of course, I
Yeah.
had been making sure I was boosting my immune system. Again, I wasn't in a place of fear, so my immune system was strong. And it was a really powerful experience to come through. I was skiing a week later. I wasn't allowed to do any jumping or cardio for a month just so I didn't pull the stitches out. However, after a month, I was back to life, living life fully.
Mm.
And it is, I'm grateful for the experience because, as I said, now in my role as a healer, I can share this with others, and I appreciate this opportunity to come on your show and share this with others so that other people can learn that they too can advocate for themselves,
Yeah.
as well as the importance of having a network of healers around you in your life before you
Mm.
need them.
Yeah.
Because that really helped when I knew exactly who I needed to call to book appointments with, because I already knew them.
Yeah.
If you're
It's
in
having
that
that
stress,
community of experts, that
exactly,
community of support. Absolutely. Yeah.
exactly. And
And even
knowing that
then,
there's
yeah.
more than one way to heal. So you can work with different people. It's
Yeah.
not just one person that you work with.
Absolutely. And yet, I would say if the fear comes in, that sometimes then we tend to go back to the routines and the standards and what everybody's doing and what everybody is saying. And so it was, of course, very positive that the environment in the hospital that was doing the operation respected and accepted your procedure and your protocol, which is unusual probably because normally they're like you say, this operating nurse who has her protocol, and that's something that especially in medical environment is something that is followed very strictly. So I think it's very important to be supported in all areas, but then also be very firm in order to have that vision, because it is about having a vision on life and on health,
Yes.
and stick with it also when it gets tough, or when we have the risk to run into our reptilian brain and do nothing but fight, flight, or paralyze. It's about keeping that vision alive, communicating that vision and the why, and standing strong. And I think it's a beautiful example, not even only for health and for medical interventions, because this could be an example for so many other situations in life where
Yes.
we feel pushed in a direction or in a protocol or in a system that we don't feel is aligned with our vision and our values. But we do because it's what is expected from us. We don't want to be disruptive, especially as women. We don't want to be controversial, or we don't want to be the difficult ones. And so we just go with that flow that is absolutely not always serving us. Does that resonate?
Yes, absolutely. And I can think of times in my life where I've done that as well, right?
Mm,
We're not perfect all the time. We're human. However, we can
exactly.
learn from each experience and go, oh, that's where I gave up my power. And now I'm learning from that so that next time I don't, right?
Yeah.
And I will admit that whole first week after meeting with the surgeon, the oncological surgeon, I flip-flopped a little bit between, am I doing the right thing on my path? There was a little bit of doubt that kept creeping in until I did the timeline therapy to release all doubt. And from that
Mm,
moment, I stood in my power and I
yeah.
knew exactly how I wanted this to go.
Yeah.
And as I said, I wasn't rude. I simply explained, starting with the plastic surgeon, why I wanted to do it my way, and she
Mm,
understood. And then
yeah.
each person I work with in the hospital, I needed to explain it again. I wasn't rude. I was just explaining this is what I would like to do. This is why.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a chance to explain it to the operating nurse. She just came out and said, it's time to take you in. Oh, you have your phone. You can't have your phone, and tried to take it.
Mm,
And then the other doctor was still there. And I said, no, I need my phone. And the other doctor said, it's part of her anesthesia protocol. She's allowed her phone because the other doctor already understood because I'd already had the opportunity to explain it to her. And she'd seen me use it while I got the nerve block.
yeah. Now, Melissa, for all the women that are watching or listening here, what would you advise them if they are in similar situations where they choose their own paths, even if it is disruptive or it is different from what is standard? What would you advise them to stand in their power and just speak their truth and go for what they know is right for them?
So, again, have people around you that help you stay strong. So,
Mm,
find those people. For me, it was my family, some of my friends, and the healers that I was working with. And then I used timeline therapy. So maybe there's a timeline therapy would work for you, some other modality that gets you into that place of where your mental attitude is in the right place, as
mm,
well as find the support around you. And it may not always be family. You may have different views with family.
yeah.
However, find the people that you know believe in you so that when your belief wavers, you can call on their belief.
Mm,
I think that's really important. And it's actually why I do my podcast that we mentioned earlier, Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call. And I bring people onto that show that have healed themselves because I believe all you have to do is hear the story of one other person that's done it, whether it's healing or anything else. Even this goes back to the 5 minute mile or whatever it was way back when. We
yeah.
thought humans could not run that fast, period. And then one person
Yeah.
did it. And then very
And
soon,
then
25 more people did it, right? So
exactly.
it's the
Yeah.
same thing is that
Yeah.
just have the people around you
Mm,
that will support you. And all you have to do is know that one person's done it to know that you can do it too. And
yeah.
that gives you hope. That gives you belief. And until you have
Mm.
your own belief, borrow someone else's belief. That's all it
I
takes.
like that one. I like that one. Yeah. Beautiful. Any last word or last advice or last sharing you would like to do, Melissa?
I would just like to let everybody know the power of your thoughts.
Mm,
We create our own reality each and every day with our thoughts. And when you have awareness around your thoughts, you can create the reality you want. And one of my favorite quotes is by Henry Ford. And he says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right.
yeah.
So, what are you going to think today?
Beautiful. Beautiful question to close this amazing conversation that was bringing such a powerful, so such power, that were bringing such powerful concepts of creating your own path, crafting your own process or protocol, or however you want to call it, based on your vision, on your belief system, on your values, and make sure that all your choices and decisions are aligned with that. And thank you so much for documenting that principle, that concept, because it's as also a very valuable concept for me that I work with for myself and also with my clients. It is about life by design. It is about agency. It is about accountability. It is about being at the driver's seat of your life, which is our place, which is where we want to be, and which is a place where we can actively contribute to create a better world for everybody, not only for ourselves, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Melissa. I am looking forward to keep connecting with you. For everybody that wants to know more about you or your work, your contact information will be in the show notes. I will also mention the podcast in the show notes so people can go there and find out more about these amazing stories that you share. And in the meantime, I thank you so much for being here, for doing the work you do, for sharing your stories, for encouraging and empowering other people, and looking forward to working with you or collaborating with you in the future. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Wonderful. Bye for now. And for everybody listening in or watching this talk show, hope to see you next time again. And look at all the other episodes because we bring amazing women every week that share their stories and their learnings and that here as a source of inspiration and encouragement for you. Happy learning. Bye for now.